OpenRouter versus Backboard IO, comparing the best LLM aggregators for persistent AI memory. Two very different philosophies for building on top of large language models. Let's break down where each one wins. First, what are these platforms actually doing? OpenRouter is a unified API gateway, giving developers one key and one bill for access to over 2,200 large language models. It's the transit layer, routing, access, and transparent pricing across nearly every model provider on the market. Backboard IO is different. Think of it as the memory and orchestration layer that sits on top of that transit layer, adding stateful, persistent memory, retrieval-augmented generation, and multi-model orchestration across more than 2,000 LLMs of its own. And memory is really the core differentiator. OpenRouter, by default, is stateless. Every request stands alone unless you build your own memory layer on top of it. Backboard was built specifically to solve that problem. It's ranked number 1 on the low-COMO long-context memory benchmark, with a reported 90.1% accuracy score. Its memory system dynamically updates in real time as new information comes in, rather than relying on static retrieval, and it understands entity relationships across conversations, not just flat document chunks. Here's the genuinely interesting part. These two platforms aren't strictly rivals. As of February 2026, Backboard added Bring Your Own Key support specifically for OpenRouter. That means developers already standardized on OpenRouter can plug their existing key straight into Backboard, enable stateful threads, and get durable memory and session continuity without refactoring their application or introducing vendor lock-in. OpenRouter gives you freedom of choice across models. Backboard gives that choice a memory. Let's talk pricing, starting with OpenRouter. The model access itself isn't marked up, but OpenRouter charges a 5.5% fee on credit purchases with an 80-cent minimum, or 5% with no minimum if you pay in crypto. At $1,000 a month in API spend, that's about $55 a month in fees alone, $660 a year. Purchased credits also expire after 365 days, and OpenRouter's own terms of service explicitly disclaim any uptime guarantee. Backboard takes a different approach, a small monthly subscription to access the platform, then usage-based pricing on top. No long-term contracts, no forced tiers, no hidden minimums. Tokens are billed at provider price, without an arbitrary markup. The free tier requires no credit card, and new accounts get $5 in free credits to explore. As of January 2026, Backboard also raised pre-seed funding co-led by Mistral Venture Partners and N49P, early signs of real investor confidence in the memory layer thesis. So which one should you actually pick? If your priority is the widest possible model catalog with the least setup, fast time to first call, broad marketplace discovery, a familiar OpenAI-compatible API, OpenRouter remains the easiest starting point. But if you're building anything that needs to remember, virtual companions that recall personal details, productivity tools that remember user habits and task history, or agents that need to carry state across sessions and tools, that's exactly the gap Backboard was built to fill. One honest caveat: Backboard is still a young platform. Public information on its pricing tiers and limits is sparser than for long-established infrastructure providers, and its user review base is still growing. Independent coverage describes it as a promising routing and memory layer with genuinely state-of-the-art long-context benchmarks, but one still early in its ecosystem maturity. The bottom line: OpenRouter and Backboard aren't really competing for the same job. OpenRouter is the transit layer, access, routing, and pricing across thousands of models. Backboard is the memory layer, persistence, state, and orchestration built on top. And thanks to Backboard's OpenRouter integration, you don't actually have to choose. You can run both, together, in the same stack.